If you would like to see a fight take place between Khamzat Chimaev and Kamaru Usman, then be sure to show this by smashing the like button. Thank you for joining me once again, and welcome back to Keenan KTV. With Khamzat Chimaev proving that he is indeed a top welterweight fighter in the UFC, he now has his eyes set on current undisputed champion Kamaru The Nigerian Nightmare Usman. A fight that seems too early to make, yet it truly is the only fight that we can look forward to the most in this division. So let us go over why Khamzat Chimaev can defeat Kamaru The Nigerian Nightmare Usman.
You know, this guy wants to fight every weekend.
6 to 8 wolves with a dominant leader, alpha male, at the top. He leads the hunt and usually eats first.
They call this guy Khabib 2.0.
Your winner by TKO and still undefeated, Khamzat Chimaev.
One of the big stars of Fight Island this past weekend is Khamzat Chimaev. Do you worry that it's going to be difficult to get him fights with ranked opponents?
Where is the ceiling for you? Where is your limit?
I can fight after 1 hour, maybe. If you give me one fight, if somebody injured, just tell me. I'm here in Abu Dhabi. I'm gonna smash everybody.
do you look at the welterweight division and see anybody that can challenge you right now? I mean, we need to find someone that can slow you down.
Doesn't matter, everybody. I'm gonna smash everybody.
Just smash everybody.
When it comes to the UFC today, we have many fighters, but not many destroyers. What I mean by destroyers is this. Destroyers really look to take you out as soon as possible and not care about your health in the process. We oftentimes might get this impression that most everybody is like this in the UFC. However, when a real savage who looks to smash you as soon as they enter the ring like Khamzat Chimaev enters, we quickly end up seeing the difference. But why would this matter against Kamaru Usman? The reality is that Kamaru Usman has always been the more physically imposing fighter going up against his opponents. His opponents have never been able to match him in physicality and strength. He has always been the fighter who hits harder than the opponent, who is able to outmuscle the opponent in the grappling exchanges. But now with Khamzat Chimaev entering the welterweight space, we will see that he indeed is a very big fighter for that weight division. And obviously, it makes sense for a fighter who also competes at the middleweight division and at that division has smashed his opponents just the same way. And now with that established, we will see that right away, Khamzat Chimaev will be testing Kamaru Usman's dominance and ring generalship when he comes forward and refuses to take the first step backwards. Alongside that, Khamzat will not be afraid of Usman's power. We have seen against Colby Covington that Kamaru Usman has the significant strength advantage in both striking and grappling. Let me give you an example. Each time Colby Covington would connect with a good punch combination, let's say 3 strikes, it would only really take Kamaru Usman 1 clean shot to completely overpower that work Colby Covington had put in. So this means 1 Kamaru Usman straight right hand made up for 3 Colby Covington strikes, just in terms of effectiveness and power. So right away, this proved that Colby Covington had to work twice as hard to get half the results. Here are the punch stats to the head, for example. Colby Covington threw in total 341 strikes, whereas Usman only threw 279 and got 2 knockdowns. Plus, all you have to do is look at the difference in damage both fighters wore on their faces by the end of the fight, and immediately you will understand that Kamaru Usman is a very powerful striker, which Kamaru Usman made very clear when he was able to finish Masvidal and Burns. Striking aside, in the grappling department, he's powerful as well, completely shutting down Masvidal and Tyron Woodley with ease. To further credit Kamaru Usman's grappling, Colby Covington, he is a great wrestler, and he didn't even try to wrestle Kamaru Usman since it would be very clear who would be winning those exchanges purely based on the strength. So it was a very smart decision for Colby Covington to not go ahead and approach that fight with that type of a game plan, since it would really waste a lot of valuable energy. You may think to yourselves, okay Keenan, what does this have to do with Khamzat Chimaev? So let us analyze why Khamzat Chimaev will be different than those fighters. First of all, Khamzat Chimaev is a destroyer. He is a smasher. Usman will not have an opponent who backs up and gives him confidence in Chimaev. Khamzat will come forward and push Kamaru Usman back. When is the last time this happened to Kamaru Usman? Usman is very great when coming forward, but who really put him on his heels and challenged his ring generalship? And when that happened, how good was Kamaru Usman on the back foot? We can say that Gilbert Burns did this in the first round with great success, also being able to drop him. However, at the same time, Kamaru Usman showed that his punch style is really based on pressing his shots and strength. He's not quite a fighter who will overthrow punches like Colby Covington without having real power behind them, or snap his shots like Jorge Masvidal but be a little bit too timid. In those two fights, a simple jab and distance management was exactly all that was needed to deal with them. But defensively, we saw that he was very open and vulnerable because Kamaru Usman uses his size and strength to back up his opponents and stay behind his long reach and keep himself safe. He is good at that, but in terms of head movement and footwork, he's very limited and is easily to be tracked for somebody like Khamzat Chimaev. Now you can say, well Keenan, the same can be said for Khamzat. That's true. However, who is more likely to charge at the other person, Usman or Khamzat? In my opinion, it is Khamzat. So right away, I can put my trust in the fact that Usman will be having to fight a different fight than what he's used to, because Chimaev is not coming into that fight with any respect for him. Here we have the real challenge in my eyes. Kamaru Usman is about 5'11", 6 foot with a 76-inch reach. Khamzat Chimaev is 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. Usually, Usman is able to create a good distance with his reach advantage over most opponents. Paired up with him coming forward and putting the opponent up against the fence, he's usually pretty safe. And if those opponents try to come in on him, he simply would pop back out, post up, and counter. With Khamzat, this is not the case. Usman in this matchup will be the smaller fighter, so this will mean that Usman will be having to come in on Khamzat Chimaev, completely switching the fight dynamic that Kamaru Usman has had for the last 5 fights. This will force Usman's hand, and he will not be in a safe bubble like he was against most of his opponents at the welterweight division. Now we have all the grounds covered, but the striking skill and grappling skill. Let's start with the striking. For now, the striking skills of Khamzat Chimaev remain rather undiscovered. What we do know is that he is able to transition perfectly to his grappling by quickly switching levels and shooting him for the takedown. But more importantly, he has the power to shut the lights off his opponents, as we have seen at middleweight against Gerald Meerschaert and even at Brave FC when he was competing in the middleweight division. It makes you think, if he's able to do that to middleweights, he will surely have the same dangerous power at welterweight. With this knowledge, I believe that it will make Kamaru Usman even more timid to come in and be a lot more cautious. The caution of the knockout shot when he comes in recklessly will make the already limited striker in Usman even more limited, and it will also force him to not take the risks that he was willing to take against other opponents such as Covington and Masvidal in their second fight. Because if you remember, in the first matchup, Kamaru wanted to have nothing to do with Masvidal striking, and Masvidal, being a smaller welterweight coming up from the lightweight division, was easily pinned up against the fence defense for 5 rounds straight. It is obvious that Khamzat Chimaev is not as skilled of a striker as Masvidal is. However, if you think about it, he does not need to be as skilled as Masvidal because his entire game makes up for it and perhaps makes him even more dangerous than Masvidal would ever be against Usman, because the threat of the takedown paired up with the height and reach will create openings for Chimaev that other opponents of Usman could not have, because while Usman might think low, Khamzat Chimaev can come up high and switch the lights off, especially with Khamzat Chimaev being an offensive-minded fighter, and if he has Usman backed up, it will create an even bigger problem for Usman, since that will make him guess, panic, boxed in, and anxious, and perhaps even making him freeze up, and that is when openings will present themselves just like they did against Gilbert Burns for Chimaev, and I believe if Chimaev can connect cleanly that he can do a lot more damage than Gilbert Burns, and perhaps even finish him as soon as he makes connection, which leads me to believe even in the striking department that Kamaru Usman is in a much different fight. With the striking department now covered, let us analyze the game they are both great at. Usman and Chimaev are both fundamentally wrestlers. I am not going to talk about the accolades of their past since both are really impressive. And really, in the world of MMA, it doesn't matter as much because this is not just wrestling. With Khamzat Chimaev coming from Chechnya, we have seen that these fighters, also from the Dagestan region, have a very high level of combat sambo under their belts. And combat sambo has been the ultimate background to have going into mixed martial arts. Over the last 5 years, people have tried to isolate it with just wrestling, but the reality is that North American wrestling and Dagestan Chechen wrestling, even though in terms of styles it may just be that, but they never ever add up the fact that most of those fighters have competed in combat sambo, where they focus a lot more on finishes with ground and pound and submission fighting. And so you cannot compare combat sambo to just the wrestling that Kamaru Usman has had growing up in high school and college. It's just a different ballgame. That is why fighters like Islam Makhachev, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Khamzat Chimaev have always been so impressive and so untouched even in the grappling department. So it is no surprise when we see Khamzat being able to submit and maul his opponents with such ease. Kamaru Usman, sure, has great takedowns also, but the difference is what they do after the takedown. It is clear that with Usman, he fights more to win the rounds and control the opponent on the mat, which in my opinion ties in with the fact that he has limitations in ground and pounding the opponent and securing submissions. And I believe this ties in with my example of North American wrestlers and the sambo fighters from the Dagestan and Chechnya region, because just take a look at this. Islam Makhachev's last win over Dan Hooker, he took him down with ease and then quickly proceeded to submit him with ease. And all of Khabib's last finishes against the top of the division, he was able to take them down with ease and submit them with ease. These fighters are the best that they had to offer in that division, and these guys just run through him like butter. And this is what Kamaru Usman will have to deal with against Khamzat Chimaev. Then the battle for the ground game comes down to who will be on top, who will take the opponent down, and who will be avoiding being on the bottom. And this is really where the biggest question lies. Usman and Chimaev have not gotten taken down ever in their UFC careers. We will have to ask ourselves the question, who will be shooting him for the takedown first? If you ask me, it will be Khamzat. Now, will he be successful? I'm not sure, but I know for a fact that he will not stop at his first attempt. And being a bigger, stronger opponent than most, I trust him more than any other welterweight who has gone up against Usman. With Khamzat being able to switch levels so fast, I think that Usman will be on defense mode for the majority of the grappling exchanges, leading me to believe that as long as the grappling doesn't get stalled against the fence, that Khamzat Chimaev could be able to score a takedown, and from there, it really is a dangerous world for Usman. Usman has obviously great takedown defense, but we have seen that statistics like a high percentage of takedown defense does not always mean a whole lot when you haven't fought the quality of wrestlers and grapplers like Chimaev and other fighters of that region. It is hard for me to imagine that Chimaev could be going in there and submitting Kamaru Usman pretty quickly, so I wouldn't really say that Chimaev would get the job done in that manner. Most likely, it will come down to a points victory since defensively speaking, Usman is pretty sound. However, if the pressure keeps up and if he's able to smother Usman for 5 rounds straight, then we will have to believe that the likelihood of a tired Usman being submitted is far higher than any other fight. So let us see what will happen in the end. For now, Khamzat Chimaev is a really big threat for both the welterweight division and middleweight division, and he has made sure to put everybody on notice, especially Kamaru Usman. In my opinion, it would be an amazing fight when these two will go at it. Will Khamzat Chimaev deliver on his promise and hype? In the end, only time will tell what will truly happen. For now, leave in the comment section down below who you think will win come fight night. As always, I have been Keenan from Keenan KTV, signing off. Later.
To smash the Achilles bone. Oh, I'm ready.